Hello Yates County and beyond. Welcome back to another episode of Invasive Species Friday. Through this short weekly podcast, we at the Yates CCE hope to bring you information about the invasive species you may see around this county. We're clinging to the trees with this week's invasive, Beech Scale. This week we have a double feature and this podcast's first invasive fungi. Beech Scale is an insect originally from Western Asia and Southeast Europe, where it feeds on oriental beech. It was first introduced to North America around 1890 in Nova Scotia. By the 1930s, it was spreading through eastern Canada and Maine. It's now been found as far south as Tennessee and North Carolina, and as far west as Wisconsin. With the arrival of Beech Scale came the introduction of a beech-killing fungus, Neonectria faginata. This is one of a few different species of Neonectria fungi that causes Beech Bark Disease. One other Nectria species is native and is sometimes responsible for the disease, but the infection didn't become widespread before the insect-fungus complex started spreading. Beech Scale in North America are exclusively female and reproduce parthenogenically, meaning the eggs don't need to be fertilized. Adults are light yellow, wingless, and less than 1 millimeter in size. They produce one brood of tiny yellow eggs a year in June or July, which hatch in August or September. The offspring, called crawlers, have legs and antennae and get their nickname by crawling to a new location on the tree. They can also be transported to a new tree by the wind or by birds. When they find a suitable location, they secrete a white, waxy coating to protect them while they molt and overwinter. During this process, they lose their legs and remain there for the rest of their lives. The scales inject their 2 millimeter tube-like mouthparts, called stylets, into the phloem through the bark and start sucking out the sugars that are transported throughout the tissue. As Beech Scale feeds on the sap of the beech tree, it opens wounds in the bark that allow the fungus to start colonizing. The fungus enters through the cracks and causes small cankers and smaller yellow leaves. In late summer and fall, the fruiting bodies of the fungus show up in the canker as small red dots in a circular shape. The fungus is spread by wind dispersal during this time. The cankers will continue to grow, making the tree appear swollen and lumpy. Eventually, the infection will girdle the tree, cutting off its water and nutrient supply, and ultimately killing the tree. There are 3 distinct phases of Beech Bark Disease. First is the advancing front. This is the phase when Beech Scale first reaches an area and starts to multiply. Not much changes in terms of tree mortality during this period, but the increase in scale density makes the tree stand more vulnerable to the Nectria fungus. Phase 2 is the killing front, and usually starts 3 to 6 years after the insect arrives. There are very high densities of Beech Scale and severe attacks from the fungi. Larger trees are typically infected first and die before the smaller diameter trees. 50% of the mature trees in the area will die within 10 years. By the end of this phase, up to 90% of the beech trees in the area will have been killed. The final phase is the aftermath. Most of the beech trees are gone, so the scale and the fungus presence has plateaued, but at a lower level than the killing phase. The trees still get canker and die, but at a slower rate. While there are less beech in the forest overstory, the understory is filled with shade-tolerant young beech that can prevent other tree species from regenerating. Trees that have been weakened by Beech Bark Disease are more prone to breaking in windy conditions, creating additional hazards. The heavy loss of beech can also mean a critical loss of significant food source for birds, black bears, and other forest critters. On to some better news. There's a small percentage of American beech trees that appear to be resistant to Beech Scale. There are theories as to why, but research is still being conducted to see if the resistance can be bred in order to repopulate. This will hopefully create Beech Bark Disease resistant forests in the future. If you've noticed your beech trees appear to be covered in wool, you may have a Beech Scale infestation. This does not guarantee the tree will get Beech Bark Disease, and there are things you can do to get rid of the insects. A soft brush or a strong stream of water can be used to remove them, though depending on the size of the tree, that may be impractical. There are also insecticides, dormant oils, and insecticidal soaps that can be used to help control the scale. In forests, these are not really practical, however. Instead, it's important to manage forests sustainably and consider overall forest health. This does not mean go cut down all the beech trees. As we said, some have a natural resistance, and beech trees play an important role in the forest ecosystem. The management techniques will be dependent on the individual forest, but might include thinning of already damaged or diseased trees and improving conditions for healthy, vigorous ones that may be able to resist or tolerate the infection. Once the advance front arrives, keep an eye on and mark any trees that remain scale-free, as they may be resistant. It's also important to be careful when transporting wood out of an infested area to reduce the risk of helping the scale migrate. As always, if you believe you've seen beech scale, beech bark disease, or any other invasive on your adventures, please report it to IMAP Invasives or your local extension office. And with that, we reach the end of this week's episode of Invasive Species Friday. Next Friday, we have the last episode of Season 2. Until then, we at the Yates CCE thank you for tuning in and supporting our fight against invasive species in Yates County.